Hello, soulmates. Welcome to the trouser class. So, to make a trouser, the measurements you need are your waist measurement, your hip measurement, your crotch depth, your lap circumference, your knee circumference, and your ankle circumference. All right. So now the first thing to do is you remove 2 inches from the top. Can you see my measurement? You remove 2 inches from the top and mark the distance from your waist to your hip line. You draw it, right? Then to get your crotch measurement, your crotch depth, you tell your client to sit down on a hard surface and then you measure from the waistline to the surface of the chair. That's your crotch depth. You mark it. Then for your lap line, your lap is 3 inches below your crotch depth. So the measurements you can see are waist measurement, hip measurement, crotch measurement, and lap measurement. Now what is remaining is to get the length of our trouser. The length of our trouser is going to be where the ankle measurement will be. Now to get the knee measurement, you measure from your lap measurement to your ankle. Whatever you get, you divide it by 2. Right? The distance from your measurement to your ankle, whatever you get, you divide it by 2. That's going to give you where your knee line is going to be. So when drafting your trouser, right, the horizontal lines that you need to mark first are your waistline, your hip line, your crotch depth, your lap line, your ankle line, and your knee line and your ankle line. So we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 lines. Hope you understand. So now it's time for us to impute our measurements. Now on the hip line, right, you measure, you say your hip divided by 4. Your hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. You mark it out. Can you see? Now whatever you mark out, you mark the same thing for crotch line, your hip line, and your waistline. So for example, if your hip is 40, divided by 4 is 10, plus 1 inch allowance 11. So you mark that 11 from your hip line to your crotch line to your waistline, like so. Do you understand? So now to get our crotch extension, right? We did 40 divided by 4. We got 10, right? Now that 10, you will divide it by 4 again. Do you understand? So 40 divided by 4 is 10. 10 divided by 4. Whatever you get, that's what you're going to use to extend your crotch. Do you understand? So 10 divided by 4, I think is 2%. So you're going to extend your crotch by that. Do you get? Remember, I did not add that 1 inch allowance. No, I just did the normal hip measurement divided by 4 again. Do you understand the crotch extension part? Your hip measurement, if it's 40 divided by 4, 10. That 10, you divide it by 4 again to get your crotch extension. Now I've extended the crotch line. Now on the hip line, you come out by 1/2 inch. On the hip line, you come out by 1/2 inch. And then you now connect these lines to your waistline like so. Now can you see that cross shape? So that's how you get your crotch extension. So now after getting your crotch extension, the next thing we are going to do is to get our waist measurement. Now from that first line you marked, you're now going to mark your correct waist measurement. Remember that the measurement we marked on the waistline was the measurement of the hip. So now we're going to impute the main measurement of the waist. So if your waist is 20, divided by 4 is 5, plus 1 inch allowance is 6. So you now mark 6 inches waistline and then you connect it to your hip line at that edge. Then to get the midpoint of your trouser, right, you measure your crotch line, the complete crotch line. If your crotch line is 16, right, you divide it by 2. That means it's going to be 8, right? Now that 8, you are going to draw a straight line down to get the length of your trouser. First of all, divide your crotch. Measure the length of your crotch. When you get the length of your crotch, right, you divide it by 2 so that we get the midpoint of our crotch line. is that midpoint of our crotch line that we use to impute our measurements for our lap line, our knee line, and our ankle line. Hope you understand. So please follow this I just mentioned and you will get a perfect trouser. You can use this template to draft any trouser of your choice. So now it's time for us to impute our measurements, right? Now, from our lap line to our knee line to our ankle line, you have to divide those lines by 2, not 4. You divide those lines by 2. So if your lap circumference is 20, divided by 2 is 10. If your knee circumference is 18, divided by 2 is 9. If your ankle circumference is 10, divided by 2 is 5. Hope you understand. So now, on your lap line, right, the lap I'm working with is 25. Divided by 2 is 12.25 plus your allowance. Alright? So you can, allowance is 1 inches, 1 inch or 2 inches, depends on your preference, right? But I added 2 inches allowance. Do you get? So 12.25 plus 2 inch allowance is 14.5. Now, in order to make our measurements to align, that 14.5, you divide it by 2 to get the midpoint. So when you divide it by 2, you're going to get 7.25. Now, you're going to mark 7.25 on one side of that straight line that we marked on one side, and mark 7.25 on the other side of the lap line. Can you see? So that is equal. When you measure it now, you see that it will give you 14.5. Can you see? So the reason for that center line we marked from the crotch line is to give our trouser basis, to make our trouser to be firm, so that when we're imputing our measurements, our trouser will be straight. Do you get? So the same way you got your lap line, that's the same way you get your knee line and your ankle line. Do you get? Do you understand what I'm saying? So you impute the measurements. Now I'm just showing you the knee line and ankle line because I'm just teaching you an extra if you want to make a simple now, because it's a palazzo trouser, right? The measurements I got from my lap line, that is what I'm going to mark down. I'm not going to mark a separate measurement for the knee line. So since the lap line is 14.5, I'm going to mark 14.5 on the knee line and on the ankle line too, because it's a palazzo trouser. You know, a palazzo trouser is a free trouser, an open trouser, is not tight. All right. So I've marked my measurement. I'll just connect it to my hip line on the front part. Okay, so this is basically how to make your palazzo trouser. Very simple.